Welcome back, everybody, for another NCAA tournament deep dive. And we are really excited for this one.
Absolutely.
We're going to be talking about a first-round matchup out in the Midwest region. It's an 8 versus 9 seed, so
Oh,
always a classic, right?
yeah, those 8-9's always interesting. They could go either way, really.
Right, exactly. And so this one in particular, we've got the Gonzaga Bulldogs taking on the Georgia Bulldogs.
A battle of the
That's right, a
Bulldogs.
battle of the Bulldogs, and this one's happening on Thursday, March 20th. So coming right up here, tipping off at 4:35 p.m. Eastern Time, 1:35 p.m. out on the West Coast, live from Wichita, Kansas at the Intrust Bank Arena, and you can catch this one on TBS.
Should be a great one.
Absolutely, and one of the things that caught our eye about this game in particular is the over-under line right around 150.5 points.
Yeah, and when you think about Gonzaga, right, they're a team that's known for their offense. They can put up points in a hurry.
For sure, high-flying offense.
Yeah, so that over-under is kind of intriguing,
Yeah.
especially when you consider the other side of the matchup with Georgia.
Right, and so that's exactly what we're going to dive into today.
Yeah.
We're going to make the case for why this game might actually go under that 150.5 point total.
Up there.
Even though, Gonzaga has that reputation for being able to score a lot of points, we think there's some really compelling reasons why this one could be a little bit more low scoring. First of all, Gonzaga comes into this game 25-8 on the season. They won the WCC tournament, so they're coming in hot.
They are.
Georgia 20-12 on the year.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit more of an up and down season for them, but they did make it to the tournament and, first round exit in the SEC tournament. But they're here and ready to go.
Ready to make some noise.
That's right. So let's dive into the reasons why we think this one could go under. And I think the first place to start is with Georgia's defense.
Yeah, they're a team that really hangs their hat on that end of the floor.
Absolutely. And statistically, they're ranked 26th in the country in KenPom's adjusted defensive efficiency.
Which is really impressive when you consider the strength of schedule they played in the SEC.
Right. And I mean, they only give up 69.3 points per game on average, which puts them, in the top 100 in the country defensively.
Yeah, and you look at their opponent's field goal percentage, 40.7%. That's 33rd best in division.
Right. I mean, teams are not shooting well against this Georgia defense.
No, they make it tough. They really make it tough on you.
So you have to imagine that, a strong defensive performance is going to be absolutely critical for Georgia if they want to pull off this upset.
Yeah, they're not going to win a shootout with Gonzaga.
No, probably not, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, they average about 75 points per game themselves, so they're going to have to win this one with their defense.
Grind it out.
Yeah, exactly. A grind-it-out type of game. And what's interesting is even Gonzaga has shown that they're capable of winning games when their offense isn't clicking on all cylinders.
Oh, absolutely.
You look at the WCC tournament final against St. Mary's. They only won that game 58-51.
Low-scoring affair.
Yeah, a real rock fight.
But they found a way to win.
They did, exactly. And that shows that, they can adapt their game plan if they need to, and they can win in different ways.
Yeah, it's not always going to be pretty.
Right. Not always going to be, 100 points on the scoreboard,
Right.
but they can get it done.
And that's a good sign for a team this time of year, in a tournament setting where every possession matters.
Absolutely. And here's another stat that I thought was interesting. When you look at the combined points per game allowed by both Gonzaga and Georgia this season, it's actually 11.6 points lower than this over-under line of 150.5.
Wow, that's a pretty big difference.
It is. It really is. And, I think that speaks to the fact that these are two teams that are used to playing in lower scoring games.
Yeah, their opponents haven't been lighting it up against them.
Right. Exactly. And it's not just about how many points Gonzaga scores or how many points Georgia scores. It's about how they defend and how they make it difficult for the other team to score.
Yeah, you got to factor in both sides of the ball.
Absolutely. And digging even deeper into Georgia's season specifically, the average over-under in their games this year has been 5.6 points higher than the actual total score.
So they've been consistently going under.
They have. They have on average.
Which, again, I think that points to their defensive identity.
Right. They're keeping teams below their expected scoring averages.
Exactly. Now, for the sake of completeness, we should mention that these two teams have met before.
3 times, actually.
3 times, yeah. Gonzaga has won 2 of those matchups.
But the last time they played was all the way back in 2014.
Yeah, that's ancient history in college basketball terms.
Right. I mean, the rosters are completely different. The coaches might be different. The style of play is different. So you really can't read too much into those past matchups.
No, it's just a fun little trivia fact.
It's exactly. A little bit of historical context, but it probably doesn't tell us a whole lot about what's going to happen on Thursday.
Right. And, it's interesting. One of the sources that we looked at actually pointed out that the over has hit in a majority of Georgia's recent games.
Yeah, they've had a few higher scoring games lately.
But even that source still gave a slight lean towards the under for this game, albeit at a slightly lower total of 149.5.
So even with that recent trend of going over the under is still very much in play.
It is.
And I think the final point to consider here is the matchup of strengths. Gonzaga has one of the most efficient offenses in the country. They're ranked second in points per possession.
Yeah, they're a machine offensively.
They are. But Georgia's defense is also very strong, ranked 66th in defensive efficiency.
So someone's got to give.
Right. It's a classic battle of an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. And I think in those kinds of situations, you often see a lower scoring game because every possession becomes a grind.
Yeah, you're not going to see a lot of easy baskets.
Exactly. So to sum it all up, we've got a number of factors pointing towards the under in this Gonzaga-Georgia matchup.
I think so.
We've got Georgia's strong defense, Gonzaga's ability to win low-scoring games, the fact that both teams have consistently kept their opponents below their scoring averages.
And, you throw in the potential for a defensive battle between Gonzaga's elite offense and Georgia's stout defense.
Absolutely.
And I think it really makes for a compelling case for the under.
I agree. And so for you, the listener, as you're watching this game, keep an eye on how these contrasting styles play out.
Yeah, is Gonzaga's offense just too much for Georgia to handle?
Or will Georgia's defense be able to slow them down and make this a real slugfest?
It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds.
Absolutely. And, if you really want to dig deep into this matchup, I think it's worth looking at the individual player matchups.
Yeah, who's guarding who?
Exactly. And how each team's defensive schemes might be able to take away the other team's strengths.
Yeah, that's where the real insights lie.
That's right. So there you have it, folks, a deep dive into the Gonzaga-Georgia matchup and why we think the under might be the play in this one. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure.
Let's do it again soon.
Sounds good. And enjoy the game, everyone.
Go Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs!